Hello there, I'm Guildmaster Dan, and welcome back to the Marvel Genesis reports. In our second report here, our session is taking place a few months after the last session. Last time we saw the founding of the Avengers under S.H.I.E.L.D. This time, we're looking a few months down the line. The Avengers have been working for S.H.I.E.L.D. for a little bit. They've been, going on missions for them. Anytime that S.H.I.E.L.D. needs a team that just to deal with the worst possible situations that require extraordinary abilities, they call in the Avengers. And, even on missions where it's appropriate, they take individual Avengers and send them on missions. This time, after a few months have passed, they end up getting a call from S.H.I.E.L.D. It turns out that some type of monster, some big green monster, is attacking Hong Kong, and they want to send in the Avengers to subdue it. Now, at the same time, actually, just prior to them getting there, Tony Stark happens to be in Hong Kong at a weapons development conference, and to show off his technology and everything. And he's at the after party now, where everybody's schmoozing and everything. There's lots of reporters there, and he's there just generally being Tony Stark. At this point, he's on his Mark II. He's already gone through the experience in. We went with the more movie origin, where instead of it being a prison camp in, I believe it was Korea, actually in the comics, we went with he was held by Middle Eastern terrorists. So he was in the Middle East, and that's where he took out the terrorist cell. He developed the Mark I, took out the terrorist cell, so on. So nobody knows he's Iron Man yet, but he has developed his Mark II or III, whichever one he's on. He's developed his starting actual Iron Man suit, and so he's actually in Hong Kong at this party, and essentially stuff starts going down. Police come into the party, start escorting people out, and he's wondering what's going on. So he decides he doesn't really want to go with the police just in case something's not on the up and up. So he has his bodyguard take him out a back way of the building. So he goes out the back, and as soon as he gets outside, he can hear people screaming, explosions, something going on nearby. So they go up to the roof, and he can look down and see in the distance a humanoid green monster wielding, having lifted up a pair of cop cars, who's being shot at by police all around, just wrecking the place. Particularly the police officers that are shooting at him, just throwing their own cars back at them. And he's like, okay, it's time. He tells his bodyguard, go get the jet ready, and summons the Iron Man suit. Now, same thing. We're going more movie storyline in that Jarvis is the AI that helps control the suit and helps link Tony to all of his stuff. But Tony Stark is the first responder. Nobody knows about Iron Man yet. All that's happened is there were news reports of a terror cell being taken out by an armored man. That's all the world knows right now. So the Iron Man suit, piloted by Jarvis, flies up. Tony hops in and then goes and confronts this humanoid monster. Things like 9 feet tall, just bristling in muscles, looks mostly human except green and really, really mad. And, he starts fighting with it. As they're fighting, the battle moves to a rooftop. He actually ends up getting swatted by a cop car up to the roof of a building, and he's chased up there by the monster. And the Avengers show up about this time. Not all of the Avengers are there. Black Widow and Moon Knight are currently on a mission. The only ones that were able to be sent in were Cap, the Punisher, and Ghost Rider. Now, they were called in by their new handler, their new S.H.I.E.L.D. handler, a man by the name of Agent Phil Coulson. Coulson, essentially anything they need from S.H.I.E.L.D., he can get it for them. He's there to keep an eye on them for Nick Fury and to get them anything they need. So, he gathers them up and takes them there, and they come right off onto the building. And unlike the previous report, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of every single combat, just talk about any notable things that happen. The notable thing that happens right now is that the monster is fighting with Iron Man. The Avengers don't know who Iron Man is as they go into the fight. Johnny Blaze rides his bike right off of the S.H.I.E.L.D. jet onto the building. As he's in the air, he goes Ghost Rider. And when he goes Ghost Rider, Tony has Jarvis scan everybody. He knows Jarvis is able to detect who Cap is, at least able to detect that Punisher is a vigilante from the U.S. All he could tell about the monster is that he's emitting he's emitting varying levels of gamma radiation, ever increasing levels. And the last one, the Ghost Rider, he's unable to detect the identity of him. However, by cross-referencing historical records, it seems to describe a demonic figure. Oh, and Tony is not having any of that. So, right into this fight, after Cap, calls for the Beast and for this man in an armor to stand down and to let them take care of it. Also, I'm sorry that I have to keep adjusting my microphone here. It keeps sliding. So I'm sorry if there's noise on there when I do that. Anyway, so Cap hops out, does the thing, stands up, says, calls in a loud, firm voice, "Stand down. Stand down. We're here to take you in and find out what's going on." The monster's not about to listen, and Tony Stark, seeing the demon, is not having any of that and shoots at the demon. So Iron Man engages with Ghost Rider, and that's enough for Cap. Cap enters into the battle as well. It just becomes this mess of fighting between the three groups. I haven't mentioned Punisher yet, because Punisher actually made sure that he was dropped a few buildings away in an abandoned building. He checked the police chatter and he had Coulson look and find out if there was an abandoned building nearby, and there was. So he got dropped off there, and he sets about wiring this place to blow, and clarifies he wants it to topple inward into itself. Since it's in the middle of a crowded city, he doesn't want it toppling elsewhere. So he starts setting up the building to blow, while Cap and Ghost Rider engage Iron Man, and what I'm sure many of you have guessed by this point is the Hulk. So, you have Hulk trying to attack Iron Man, because Iron Man ticked him off. You have Iron Man trying to attack the Hulk and Ghost Rider, because they're both scary. And then you have Cap trying to subdue both Iron Man and Ghost Rider. It's a bit of a cluster, what ends up happening, but essentially, Tony has Jarvis hack into their comm links, the Avengers, so that he can explain he's just trying to help, and they end up working together against the Hulk. Cap rather doesn't do too much against the Hulk other than distract him and keep him to distract him from, say, Tony or Johnny Blaze, while Johnny goes straight up toe-to-toe with the Hulk. The Hulk proves to be the stronger. He starts throwing him around, and he gets to this point where he just picks up Johnny Blaze, just ready to crush him for taking him off so much. And the Ghost Rider gives him the pendant stare, and you have the Hulk gripping him and giving him the pendant stare. All it manages to do is the Hulk essentially wards off the attack. All it does is it causes him too much pain. It causes him too much pain, and it just ticks him off more. More gamma radiation comes out. He just gets madder, bigger, and he smashes him through the building. as they're fighting, the building that they're on, which Cap has confirmed through Coulson and police chatter, is still being evacuated of people. This is an office building. And as they're fighting, the roof and the sides of the building start to crack just from Hulk's just going all out. Now, in an attempt to bring down the Hulk, Tony uses a sonic blast and proceeds to just tick off the Hulk. Ghost Rider and Cap manage to stay up, but he manages to shatter all the glass in this building and the surrounding buildings and knock out everyone inside. Long story short, the way they get around this is Punisher finishes setting his charges in the abandoned building. Iron Man sets about pulling the Hulk away from the occupied building by distracting him, shooting unibeam blasts at him. Which, first time he actually shoots him off of the one rooftop on across the street onto another rooftop. Unibeams, big gun, knocks him off to a adjacent building, and they carry on the fight over there. All he's trying to do is distract him and pull him along, while Cap and Ghost Rider proceed to get people out of the building. Well, it's more like Ghost Rider's holding the building together, while Cap is working together with the police to get everyone out of the building before it collapses. Well, Tony Stark continues to fight with the Hulk, and the Hulk's just getting madder and madder. He's getting bigger and bigger, and it gets to a point he uses another unibeam on him. Essentially, he flies over the abandoned building. He's ready to pull him over because Cap and the Ghost Rider finished up what they're doing. Cap comes back up to the roof. They have their plan. They're going to lure him to the abandoned building and hit him all at once because none of their individual stuff has been working. Well, this just works out in the most perfect, picturesque moment. You have Cap, who's a few buildings away on the rooftop. Ghost Rider, who, actually, I take it back. Ghost Rider is still holding the building together because he's trying to save time for everyone to get out. He's holding that building together. So Cap gets up onto the roof of that building, a few buildings away where the abandoned one is. Iron Man flies over that and targets Hulk and gives him another unibeam. At this point, Hulk is significantly bigger than when he started. He gets hit by the unibeam, and instead of being knocked, across the street, he just leans into it, growling. When it stops, he leaps over to the abandoned building, leaps up, and he's just ready to clock Iron Man down, like just both massive fists the size of freaking anvils, just ready to smash him down. Iron Man just barely pulls up out of the way as Hulk falls back down, lands on top of the building. As he lands on the building, it visibly ripples and cracks underneath him. Just the sheer power that's in his anger right now. Punisher has booked it out of the building, and just as Cap does one of those, kind of like a guy who throws a javelin does a two-step swing throw of his shield, flies up, clocks the Hulk in the back of the head, doesn't do any damage, just enough to distract him, cause him to look the other way as Iron Man shoots his unibeam straight down into the Hulk as the Punisher hits his trigger and the building lights up, and just the explosion fires up in the sky. It starts collapsing inward. The explosion makes a little donut for the unibeam shooting straight down into it, and just it falls inward and actually breaks the street and falls into the sewers. And just massive rubble. There's all this dust coming out and everything. And Avengers go in looking for the Hulk. They've determined that at this point, if this did not subdue him like their orders were, he's going to have to be taken down. They were authorized that if they can't subdue him, to take him out. Well, they start going between Iron Man, Ghost Rider, and Cap. Oh, sorry. They manage to clear away the rubble to get down into the sewers, but they can't find any sign of the Hulk. They do manage to find a hole in the wall in the sewer that is lightly, has signs of gamma radiation on it. But They can't find him. They look around and they can't find the Hulk. All they're able to find that is he's gone. It does take them a while. It takes them a couple of hours to get down there because you just brought an entire office building abandoned, but entire office building down on top of a street that just broke. So they had to clear out a lot of rubble. The Hulk got away. So they regroup and they go back and they go to the nearest SHIELD facility, which just so happens to be on a familiar prison island. They go to the newly created SHIELD facility codenamed the Gulag, which, yes, Russian code name for the facility on a Chinese island. Yeah, so on and so on. Anyway, they go to the Gulag, which is a facility that was built around the prison complex and what is now known as the TSP, Time Space Platform. They get some more clearance. Iron Man does go with them. Essentially, when the Avengers go to gather up, Phil Coulson comes out and says, "I think you better come with us. I think I have a job offer for you." Tony, curiosity getting the better of him, decides to go. He doesn't reveal to anyone who he is just yet. But when they get to the facility, his power cells are almost dead, and he tells them what he needs to power up. At this point, Maria Hill steps in and says, "If you want to use SHIELD, SHIELD resources to power you up, you're going to have to give us something. I need to know your identity. We won't necessarily act on that, but we need to know your identity before we power you up." And Tony Stark begrudgingly agrees and reveals himself. Everyone's surprised. Tony Stark? Punisher connects the story of what happened in the Middle East of the Armored Man and Tony's Iron Man suit, and immediately proceeds to try and convince him to build him one too, and maybe with bigger guns and such on it. Yeah, it could be a little bit more effective, as he put it. Anyway, what happens is they learn some more information, and what they find out is they get to see some security footage. Banner, who was, you may remember from last time, was put in charge of studying the time-space platform, was doing an experiment with gamma radiation when the device reacted, and bathed the room, Banner, and his lab assistant in gamma radiation. And the mixture of the gamma radiation with essentially the chrono energy that comes off of the device caused them to mutate. Banner turned into the Hulk and busted out of there, where he went on an angry rampage. Or essentially, he jumped out of there all the way to the mainland, then started going on a rampage. Ended up in Hong Kong, where we started. The other man and his lab assistant, one Dr. Samuel Stearns, essentially shrivels a little and his head gets bigger, and he appears to be healthy. However, it appears to have mutated him in a way that it seems to have turned him into an idiot savant. He's been responsive, and appears to have his faculties, but he hasn't spoken to anyone, and all he's been doing is reading nonstop. Nurses have a hard enough time getting him to eat and such, as all of his focus seems to be on reading anything he can get his hands on. So Phil gets the orders from Fury that the team's job is to track down the Hulk. At this point, to track down Banner, which got turned into a hulking monster, and subdue him and bring him in. Pretty much same mission, only now they have to find him. Tony Stark is given clearance to help them. So, what they end up doing is they decide they want to talk to Stearns. They go and they see him in the medical wing, and yeah, just like they described, he's in there. He's reading from a tablet, and when they come in, he'll look up at them and then immediately go back to. They try to read at him. He'll every so often look at them and then he'll immediately go back to reading, or he might change what he's reading. And Cap decides that he tries asking him questions, asking him for help, and he's not responding. They believe that he's capable. They come to the conclusion that he's capable of talking, but he's not. So they agree to give Punisher 5 minutes with him. Terrible idea. So they leave Punisher in the room with them. Punisher proceeds to torture Samuel Stearns to try and get him to talk. And by torture, I mean smash the tablet in his face, breaking the tablet, breaking his fingers. Yeah, and actually going one at a time, just start breaking fingers trying to get him to talk. Finally, what Punisher manages to get out of him is he's still unable to talk, but he's able to take a tablet and start typing things out. Punisher starts asking questions. Now, the thing about the way he's typing is it takes a long time. He types out long strings of things and has to backspace, and it's long and laborious, but he eventually comes out with small, like 1, 2, possibly 3 word responses. Essentially, Punisher wanted to know what happened. And after it takes a long period of time, they eventually come back in and like, what did you do? The orderlies are nuts, but they can't. Punisher's very intimidating. Cap's very disappointed, but, Punisher's not phased. They talk to him, and it takes long periods of time for him to type things out. They ask what happened. He explains that it was an accident. I should also mention, this actually happened over 2 sessions. The initial time, he gets him to type stuff out. The first time he determines that he honestly can't talk, because having broken his fingers and only getting screams out of him, he's not going to be able to talk. However, Punisher hasn't given up. They leave to go do other investigating. Tony gets access to S.H.I.E.L.D. satellites and starts tracking for sources of gamma radiation. He finds the expected ones, and he does see one moving across the Atlantic Ocean? No, the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean. One moving across the Pacific Ocean. They determine that's the Hulk. But they don't leave just yet because they're not sure where he's going. They don't have a plan on how to handle it. Punisher, excuse me. Punisher looks up Stern's file and finds out that his psych evaluation says he has an inferiority complex. He was a graduate student by chance. He was like a graduate student. He is published, but nothing very famous. He ended up just being picked up by chance by Banner and brought into this. So Punisher takes this new ammunition and goes back and starts torturing Stearns again, though this time psychologically. Just prodding at that, the fact that he would accomplish nothing, that the accident was probably his fault. All that, just keeps prodding at him. And this is where he gets him to talk on the tablet. And it takes a long period of time for him to type out anything. He wants to know what happened. Stearns says it was an accident. Stearns also says he's trying to help, and there's no way that Punisher would understand. They have an exchange back and forth. It takes about 2 hours for this exchange to go over, and at one point, Punisher is like, I don't even remember if it was Punisher has like a scalpel to his throat, getting him to show how he's going to help. So Stearns takes his time. He opens up like a paint app and takes his time and draws stuff. Again, it takes like 20 minutes, but he draws out a schematic of some type of electronic. They give it over to Stark, and Stark's able to tell that it's some sort of energy transfer device. He can tell that it's not finished, and that's quite impressive, but that's all he can tell about it. So they decide to, all right, fine, leave him alone. What they decide to do in the meantime, while they leave Stearns to recuperate and work on whatever he's working on, or however he's working on it, they decide that they're going to go to Arizona. What they find out in Banner's file is that he has a fiancé. He has a fiancé in Arizona where he used to work on an Air Force base. working on something that Tony Stark remembers was a gamma bomb. That's actually where Shield picked him up, because, well, Shield picked him up before the gamma bomb project completed, and they figure since he and his fiancée have a house out there, that's where he's going to end up. Because that gamma radiation signal that they caught got to the West Coast and disappeared. They don't know what's up, but they figure that's where he's going. So they go and they set up shop there. They Cap contacts the head of the base, which turns out to be Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, who makes it clear that he has friends in S.H.I.E.L.D., and he already knows about their screw-up, and he's already come to the same conclusion they have, and he's taking means to protect his daughter and to protect the nation from that, as he put it, from S.H.I.E.L.D. screw-up. And essentially, it's put in no uncertain terms that he respects Cap, but Cap is working for the wrong team. And he is going to clean up S.H.I.E.L.D.'s mess. So, what ends up going down is all sorts of military activity in the area, planes, jets, they discover they're being brought in. Essentially, all sorts of area. What happens is they do a stakeout. The Avengers do a stakeout in the Punisher's battle wagon, listening to chatter, waiting for it. The military pick up an unidentified civilian on foot approaching Betty and Bruce's house. They are going to. The military starts to mobilize. Well, the Avengers, who are ready and waiting, mobilize first and get there first. Punisher actually heads to the house, heads for Betty's house, while the rest of them head for the unidentified person. They actually handle it pretty well in that they discover very quickly it's Banner. Banner runs away as soon as he sees them because they tear up this dirt road on their in the battle jeep or battle bus, whatever. The battle wagon that Punisher has. They tear up, he runs, but actually Cap's able to tell him, "We're not going to hurt you, just stand down, we're from S.H.I.E.L.D., we're here to bring you in and help you." And essentially, they talk to Banner briefly. Banner doesn't know where he is, he doesn't know what's going on. He woke up, he actually woke up in a different place. The last thing he remembers was things going wrong in the accident. Next thing he remembers is he woke up in a city in California, and he hitchhiked his way here. And essentially he saw that his accounts were frozen and such, and he decided to hike his way here. And Cap doesn't tell him what's going on right away, but they say that it's imperative that they get him out of there. Essentially what happens is Banner starts to get upset because they're not telling him what's going on, and they're trying to force him into the back of the bus quickly before the military shows up. And when Banner's eyes start to go green as he's starting to get upset, not wanting to take a chance, Iron Man essentially blasts him, trying to knock him out. All it does is wake up the Hulk. So the Hulk gets out, grabs the battle wagon, and baseball swings freaking Iron Man across the way again. They start getting into a fight, trying to actually no, they start to get into a fight with the Hulk. Then the military shows up. Then they turn into trying to get the military to stand down. At the same time, Punisher went to the house and finds Betty there. He talks to Betty and tells her, or actually he's going to tell her, only to find her on the phone. She says she just received a call from an agent, Phil Coulson. Now, they had tried to contact Betty before, but they weren't able to get into contact with him because of General Ross's doing. Coulson, essentially on his own accord, was able to get in contact with Betty. Punisher says, "Bruce is this way. We need you to calm him down." So she's like, "Take me to Bruce," and they head for the battle. Essentially, during the battle, Punisher manages to bring Betty up. He actually falls back and lets her run the way up, but she gets up to Bruce, and Bruce the Hulk looks down at her. He's like, "Betty?" They have their moment, but what they don't know is at the same time, Cap was on the phone, or was on the phone with Ross, who, his forces show up. He told him to stand down and let him attempt to calm down the Hulk, because he actually managed to get the Hulk's attention and stop fighting. Ross tells him, "You have 2 minutes." Well, the 2 minutes is because he just called in an airstrike from F-22s, and he has 2 minutes to do this and get the hell out. So Cap starts to talk to him. Then Betty shows up, and Betty and the Hulk have their moment, but it takes too long. And as soon as Ross realizes what's going on, he's like watching the whole thing through binoculars. He gets on the phone with Cap. He says, "Cap, you get my daughter out of there right now. Right now, there are planes coming. They are about to fire." Cap, it's a real tense moment. "Get her out of there!" And he's yelling at them, "Get them out of there now!" And just as he already calls the jets. They've already dropped their missiles. They're coming now. Ross throws his driver out of the Jeep. Just a lot of stuff went down. Essentially, we'll put it this way: the missiles drop. Iron Man manages to take out one and take out the jet that fired it. Cap manages to throw his shield to take out the other before it connects with the area. Punisher snuck around to the soldiers, and just as Ross throws the driver of his Jeep out of the seat to take the controls himself, Punisher comes up and puts a gun on the back of his head. And all that, they turn and they see that as stuff broke down again, the Hulk and Betty are gone. In fact, the Hulk is sailing through the air into the distance as he has jumped away carrying Betty. Punisher forces Ross to tell everybody to leave. Have everybody leave except for him, and then he can drive them back and go his own, or actually, they can wait until S.H.I.E.L.D. shows up, and then he can go his own way. Ross complies. It makes it very clear to them that nothing on heaven or earth will stop him from getting his daughter back, will stop him from getting his daughter back. And they make it clear that if you do that, you're putting more lives in danger. You're putting American lives in danger. You can't handle this monster. Naturally, when they regroup, they actually just regroup at a S.H.I.E.L.D. safe house, as the U.S. military instantly starts looking for Banner. They end up learning that, actually, as it happens, they call for a S.H.I.E.L.D. pickup. Coulson says he was on the way anyway. I know, Coulson's good like that. Long story short, while they were gone, Stearns had come around. He started talking again and had set to work. He tells them, or essentially, he has Coulson tell them that he's working on a device that can subdue the Hulk, and Stearns coins the term the Hulk. And the device can subdue him, and he requires the help because they're the ones that are going to have to carry it into battle, and to leave the Cro-Magnon behind, or to not bring the Cro-Magnon. Cap acquiesces his request, and they all go to see Stearns, who is already in a lab working on it. He's not as savant-y as he was before. He's able to talk and such. He talks matter-of-factly, talks very quickly. As he explains, he was unable to speak before because he was still dealing with his mutation. His mind had expanded and moved very quickly. Everything he tried to type out before, and they did learn this, was like stream of consciousness. It's like reading Finnegan's Wake, if you ever read that. His mind worked faster than he could actually speak or process. And he was essentially learning to cope with that. The only thing that was, helping was him reading, was helping him to cope with words. But now that he's good, he started making this device. He was already working on it. He was reading things necessary for him to learn that. So he grabs Tony Stark, and the two work together to create this energy drain device. Essentially, what it'll do is it'll drain all forms of radiation from anything. from what it fires at. Essentially, it will drain the Hulk of his gamma radiation, of his, as Stearns puts it, his self-replenishing biological gamma reactor, in layman's terms. It will drain him of his energy enough that he will revert to Banner, but they have to be careful, because if they keep draining, it'll drain all of the heat and everything from Banner's body and kill him, as it would with any device or person they fire it too long at. So, they give it to, essentially, Stark and Stearns manage to finish it quickly. Stark is impressed with Stearns, and by looking at his tech, he's impressed by his intelligence and just the level of thinking he was able to come up with this in the short period of time that he did. He realizes that Stearns is on a level possibly even above his own intelligence. But they take the device, they train with it, they decide that Punisher, ironically, is the one who gets to train with it because he's the best shot, and they get word that the U.S. military has engaged with the Hulk. They decide that during a lot of stuff went down, but essentially they took recordings of they send a message to like the U.S. Congress or the appropriate department of the U.S. Congress reporting General Ross for essentially reporting him for abusing his power to get his daughter back by endangering other American lives. Now, Cap just feels icky about this entire situation, but he goes along with it. He explains that he believes Ross's emotions are getting the better of him. He should probably at least be put on, a leave, send him on a vacation. And they send that in before they head off to go carry out their plan. When they get there, they see that, yes, the military is engaged with the Hulk. The only things engaged with them are aircraft, helicopters, and jets, and prototype ground vehicles that are they're power suits. Not like Tony Stark's power suits, more like Metal Gear Rex walking tank power suits that they're fighting the Hulk with. What will eventually be termed Hulkbusters. And without going into the strategy they were using, there was a whole strategy they were using that was actually letting them stay toe-to-toe with the Hulk. But the Avengers intervene. And to wrap this all up, essentially, they have the fight with the Hulk and the U.S. military. They find out that, Coulson was supposed to contact. They find out that Ross was cleared to test these prototype devices, the Hulkbusters, to try and bring down the Hulk. They get into this three-way fight. Punisher does manage to get a clear shot on the Hulk and drains him. And he gets to a point where it drains him faster than he thought, and he gets a moment where he realizes that the Hulk has reverted to Banner, and he has the opportunity, if he just holds it a little bit longer, he can kill Banner and stop the Hulk for good. And he has this moral moment where he gets to decide. The Punisher ends up deciding, or Frank Castle ends up deciding that Banner didn't cause all the damage on his own. It was involuntary. It's caused by when he's in the Hulk state. So he pulls back on the device, and Banner's there knocked out. In the process of the fight, they use the energy draining device to also drain the other vehicles that were there. Essentially, they managed to subdue the military as well, the Hulkbusters and the helicopters and any jets in the area, and they extract both Betty, who they find, and Banner, and a knocked out Banner, back onto a shield jet, which was engaged with the jets fighting the Hulk, and they get out of there to a safe house. The aftermath is that a full investigation is being put up on Ross to see what's going on, especially with the loss and disappearance of the Hulk. S.H.I.E.L.D. is sending information on that. The aftermath of that is that they essentially, at the end of that, Congress takes Cap's suggestion. Ross keeps his authority and keeps his rank, and he's sent on a leave of absence. Shield managed to get Banner, and they keep him sedated because while he's in Banner's state, they're able to, act on him just like normal. Stearns, they put in charge of his research as well as the research of the time-space platform. Essentially, he takes Banner's job as the head researcher because he has the know-how and he's most familiar with it. And Tony Stark is left to go be his own thing. He's simply told that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s going to keep an eye on him. He does decline an offer for a job, but he goes his separate way, and the day is temporarily saved. And yeah, that was the second adventure. The Hulk is a thing now. Samuel Stearns, which some of you may not know his actual name. He is the leader. He's a Hulk villain. In Marvel Genesis, he's currently working for S.H.I.E.L.D. He has not become the leader yet, but he has been given a position of import, studying the Hulk as well as studying the time-space platform. The Gulag is still damaged from the Hulk's rampage, leaving it vulnerable to attack, but, they have guards there and they're protecting devices as best they can. They've locked it down. And that's kind of where we're leaving off. Iron Man is a new addition to the heroes in the world, as is the Hulk, though right now the Hulk isn't a hero. He's still just a force of nature that they're studying. The leader is introduced, working for S.H.I.E.L.D., and yeah, the world knows of the Hulk and is aware of him as they put it, an alpha-level threat. It was suggested more than once by Punisher that it might be the best way to deal with him is to just launch him into space and get rid of him. But to be dealt with another time. That is our second adventure. I had to bring this to you guys quickly because, as it turns out, the other Game Master actually has his session already ready. He already has the next adventure lined up, so you guys should be seeing another report here a little bit sooner than this one. You should be seeing it in the next week or so. But I'm not going to keep you any longer because I kept you a lot longer than I intended to. So I hope you enjoyed this report. I will see you guys soon. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later.